Hey, everyone. Welcome to Locked On Lakers for Wednesday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. The Lakers take care of business against Washington, and now attention turns to Boston on Thursday. That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. This one's always free, never behind paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube. So we can go hang out with over 27,000 subscribers to the channel, Andy, all of whom are, I think, relieved the Lakers did what was expected of them on Thursday. And as we sit in at exactly the halfway point of the season, the Lakers are the 6th seed in the West. That's the good news. They're 5 games over 500. That's also good news. They are also inspiring very little confidence. And that's the less good news. So all of these things are things we'll cover over the next couple of days. And of course, getting ready for a huge game on Thursday at home against the Celtics. Want to let people know that today's episode is sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. So I don't want to say that Lakers, were a shoe-in after the Nets game where they won by a point at home the other night. This certainly felt like a game the Lakers ought to win. And they did what was asked of them.
You and I, for everydayers, they've heard us have this philosophical debate before about, because Anthony Davis has been questionable the last couple of games. As you mentioned, he missed the game against Brooklyn with various lower extremity injuries. And heading into this game being questionable, there had been the idea of, would the Lakers potentially sit him against the Wizards, who, what have they won, 7 games so far this season? 6, I'm sorry. They won 6.
You are crediting them with an extra victory that they don't deserve.
They won 6 games away, 6 games in total, 1 away from the D.C. area. And there had been that question about whether an AD would play or not. Maybe you give him an extra game day off before the Boston game. And you tend to err on the side of, if you're making these sort of decisions, bank for sure the game that you're supposed to win and potentially sit a player against a team like Boston that you might end up losing anyway. And we were discussing this offline. My reaction was, no, if you're going to do that, play AD against Boston, because if you can't beat the Wizards without Anthony Davis, what the F does this season mean anyway? I understand. Seriously, what are we doing? What are we doing?
I understand your perspective, and
this is all pointless. This is existentialism gone bad.
I agree that we'd be in a bad spot. I'm just saying, but the AD certainly, came through as you would expect with a big game against just horrible Wizards team. 29 points, 16 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 blocks. LeBron, not super efficient, but a triple-double, 21 points, 10 rebounds, 13 assists against 5 turnovers. The Lakers got some decent performances. Dorian Finney-Smith, who we'll talk about a little bit more over the course of the
We've
show.
talked before about how players will claim they don't know their stats in game, but they all do. Like, LeBron got his 10th rebound, which secured the triple-double, and immediately looked over at JJ. Is like, are you going to call timeout, or am I going to call timeout and get me out of this game? I'm done. Done.
Joins Karl Malone as the only 40-year-olds, I believe, if I read that statistic correctly, with triple-doubles. And also, Karl did that in a Lakers uniform. That's just how it is part of the franchise lore at this point, is producing.
Those are the only ways LeBron wants to be alike with Karl Malone.
I can understand that.
I'm going to go out on a limb and predict that.
A reasonable impulse, as far as I'm concerned.
That's where LeBron would like these similarities to end. Those triple doubles at 40, and they both played in the NBA for the Lakers.
Both power forwards, I guess.
No,
maybe.
LeBron in these
Nope, call
comparisons,
himself a small forward.
LeBron's a 3. He might even be a 1 just to move himself numerically further from Malone.
Well, anyway, so yeah, I mean, it wasn't the most dominant night from LeBron, but still, obviously, some solid contributions there with the triple double. And this was never a game. There were moments in the game where you felt like the Lakers, could have put it away faster, but it was never a game where you felt even kind of like, at least to me, like the Lakers were going to lose.
No.
So, and this kind of thing, it means nothing in the sense of like trying to get a handle on where the Lakers are again at the exact halfway moment. It doesn't, it's not one that you use to raise confidence in the team. It's not any of that stuff. But what it is a game that they needed to win, and they did it. And, we talk about this all the time. The only thing that's worse than, uninspiring victories against bad teams is losing to those teams. And the Lakers, to their credit, have not done that at all this year. They are 11-1 against teams that are under 500. The problem is, Andy, when you try to figure out who they are and where they are, that they are 11-17 against teams that are above 500 and have the second worst point differential of any of the 20 teams that are currently play off or play in eligible. And thank you to the Chicago Bulls for just being worse. So, I mean, that's where they are with a huge game coming up on Thursday.
It did help, by the way. They entered this game with a minus 2.6 point differential. This win got it up to an even 2.0. So helpful in trending in the right direction this season, even though the Lakers are last year at this point in the season, they were 20-23, 3 games below 500. Now they're 23-18. We are still on positive point differential watch, a tradition unlike any other for this team. JJ a few times in his post-game presser described this as a professional win and just like a very professional performance, which is a very polite way of saying we know this is a crappy opponent. I mean, and I mean that like this is him honestly not wanting to be a jerk about it.
Right, but also too, it's a meaningful like good teams beat bad teams like this in the way that the Lakers did, which is
of course
controlling it throughout and putting in a professional effort where
absolutely
Washington wasn't in position to steal the game and all that kind of stuff.
It's the way that you acknowledge the circumstances without being, again, kind of a jerk about it. Like you want to describe what it was, which is we are supposed to, if we want to be able to do anything we are aspiring to this season, we are supposed to be able to beat a 6-win Wizards team by 20 plus. Like, no, really, you're supposed to be able to do that.
Right. But like he didn't refer to the Brooklyn game as a professional win.
Well, they didn't have AD.
That's
so, adversity. Yeah, it was also totally unprofessional, but yeah.
Yeah. So look, I want to talk a little bit about DFS because both you and I have noted like he needs to play more. And as we learned on Tuesday, there are reasons why he has not been. And those reasons are going away. And so we will talk a little Dorian Finney-Smith next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Game Time. I love attending live events, whether you're talking about sports or music, comedy, theater. One of my best memories of 2024 was seeing Hamilton on Broadway last spring in New York with my family. And it was a really great show. And my daughter got to meet basically the entire cast after the show. They all hung out afterwards. They were really nice, let her take selfies with them. Like, it was really, really fun. And Game Time has made it easier to get tickets for events like this with features like Game Time Picks. It filters out all the fluff to just show you incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets and just stuff you don't even want to read about. You just want the best options, and it puts it out right there for you. The super deal is also impressive. That offers great seats at unbeatable prices, and the app's all-in pricing shows the total upfront cost. So there's no surprise fees at the checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time.
Department of Corrections and Retractions, Andy, the number I wrote down with the point differential for the Lakers as the 19th best, 19th worst among the 20 teams was in fact done before the end of the Wizards game. And I owe them an apology. They are now tied for 18th among the 20 playoff and play-in teams with Atlanta, and still now comfortably ahead of the Chicago Bulls. So that's my bad, as my daughter likes to say. Anyway, also too, sign up for that newsletter, Locked On Lakers newsletter. You go to lockedondaily.com, have this show and lots of other NBA analysis delivered to your inbox every single day. Again, sign up for it. It is a helpful thing for you. It is a helpful thing for us. Everyone is a winner. So, I've been wanting Dorian Finney-Smith to play more. You've been wanting Dorian Finney-Smith to play more. Apparently, now Dorian Finney-Smith is allowed to play more.
Yeah, JJ talked before the game about how Dorian had been on a minutes limit because of an ankle injury that he had, like, I think a couple days before or a couple games before eventually getting traded over here. Like, I had been aware that this injury happened. I had wondered at times if maybe this was the reason that he wasn't playing as much as I think everybody anticipated, including from the way JJ had talked about him. But the reason that I guess I, speaking for myself, was not convinced that was the reason is just because he had gone an awfully long time playing. And playing like a reasonable amount of minutes with also nobody ever mentioning, hey, he's on a minutes limit, which typically comes up. So it felt more like JJ's own decision-making process than anything they were monitoring with DFS. This was not a game where the lack of restriction would get tested because the Lakers controlled the thing from start to finish. DFS played 22 minutes, and if you even have concerns about it at all, there's no reason to push him in a lopsided game like this one. But it is really good to know moving forward that this won't be a factor, say, against Boston on Thursday with that lineup and so many guards and wings that require covering, big forwards. It will be really handy to have DFS available for however many minutes you want to play him.
It's one of these things that if you're going to make this deal, and I realize you're in theory swapping a guy, D'Lo is playing 24 minutes, 25 minutes at the most, sometimes a little less than that, not too often up around 30. But if you're going to make a trade like that to try to change the sort of the tenor of your team, really add a true 3-and-D player or whatever, like they got to play the hell out of him. Like he's got to play a lot. And look, I think he showed the skill set against the Wizards on both sides of the ball. Whatever, it's the Wizards, but like he showed this is what he does. Came out early, hit a couple shots, was very disruptive defensively. And like you say, we're really going to be able to see against a team like Boston, where in theory everyone is as dialed in as you get. National TV game, the greatest rivalry in NBA, the NBA has ever seen. Like this game is always a big deal, and it's particularly a big deal because the Celtics are actually really good again, and have been for a little while. But like when both teams are theoretically playing for something and are relevant and whatever, the game gets even more important.
Yeah, this is a good game for Dorian. 16 points off the bench, 4 threes. He had a putback on an offensive rebound. And, Boston has not been playing great lately.
No,
They
certainly not
are
by their standards.
No, I mean, not by any standards. They've been like basically a 500 team over the last 10 games. I mean, they have been vulnerable. Certainly by their standards, at the very least. There's been a lot of what's going on with the Celtics conversation in terms of like national coverage. Or I'm sure if you go over and listen to John Corrales for Locked On Celtics, if you could stomach a conversation about the Celtics, I'm sure that's coming up. So. And remember, last year, the Lakers, one of their big breakthrough moments of the season, like what felt like a potential real fork in the road moment, because they had been going through a real bad vibes period, and LeBron and Anthony Davis were both out on the road in Boston, and the Lakers won that game really handily. Like, they controlled that thing from start to finish, basically because for 48 minutes, they played their keisters off. Like, it is one of the hardest I've ever seen a team play from start to finish. And I'm including playoff games. Like, I'm including Game 7 playoff games. It's one of the hardest I've ever seen a team play from start to finish. So it is not impossible that they can pull this game off. Again, considering Boston is a little wobbly of late. They're not. Boston's still going to be the favorite, and they should be. But things happen.
Well, right. I mean, I would say to whatever degree the Celtics issues are related to, we're the defending champs. It's a long season, and we're preparing to play 100 games, not sprinting to play 82. That probably won't be an issue Thursday. I mean, you would
they've
think
had guys banged up. They're
they're right. No, I know that, but they've got so much depth on that team that even they've had Kristaps Porzingis missed the first whatever it was month or so of the season, and they were dominant. Like they've got so many good players on that team. And last year, I think that win, and I'm not taking it away from anybody, but that win was an example of the kind of thing that we accuse the Lakers of doing all the time, which is not taking your opposition seriously. And you give them a chance to be in a game. You give guys a chance to believe they can do something really cool. And you're not matching their energy. You're not matching their effort and all that kind of stuff. You wouldn't think that'll be a problem, assuming all the Lakers stars are playing. Like the Lakers.
They'll also be on the second end of a back-to-back. They play the Clippers the night before.
I look at this game, and we'll talk about it more tomorrow, as we get ready for it. And then also too, just like kind of where the Lakers are at this halfway point. I think this is a really important game to get kind of a barometer on what happens for the technically 6-game road trip. It's 5 with a game against the Clippers, another game against the Clippers at Intuit Dome. If the Lakers get their asses kicked on Thursday, which they have frequently done against better teams over the course of the season. First of all, they better not be wearing those stupid Lake Show jerseys that are 1-8.
Side note.
If they show up on the floor in those things, everybody deserves to lose their jobs. Burn those jerseys. They clearly do not work.
Yeah.
They don't work. They're broken. Burn them.
I don't know if there's a fine from the league as this stuff gets worked out. If you're not wearing those jerseys, Genie, pay the fine. Like, sell some extra Syncoro, create another TV show. Like,
go fund me. Everybody would contribute to it.
Right. Like, find another revenue stream. Eat the money. Like, it's not.
They don't
worth
work.
it.
The Lakers are 1-8 in those jerseys, which makes them 22 and what is that? 22 and
5, I think.
10 against everyone else.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
in any other jersey, they got 9 other jerseys they can choose from.
maybe those jerseys were like made on some sacred burial ground. Like I have no idea, but
they're woven with
working.
fibers from the Brady Bunch tiki doll. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what the problem is. Our friend Tom Zayas from the Lakers Exceptionalism Pod, he's claiming that the problem is that they wear them against good teams. And like, don't you think it has to do? I don't know. They're 1-8. Stop wearing the jerseys. I don't care if that's the explanation. Just in case it's the jerseys, stop wearing them. If they wear anything else and they win on Thursday, then you really know that those jerseys are cursed and should be shot out of a cannon into the sun. Just do something with them other than wearing them during basketball games. But I want to get a little bit deeper into why I think this game is so important for the games that are coming up. We'll do that next. If you didn't get a chance to check out the postcast with Dave Palais, do that. And again, Locked On Lakers newsletter, go to lockedondaily.com, click on Locked On Lakers. The trip that comes up includes Washington. It includes Charlotte. Those teams suck. It includes Philadelphia, who alternate between sort of potentially dangerous and a complete tire fire, depending on who is playing. And even when their big, players are playing, they still have not played well.
Yeah, and Joel Embiid may not
be. May not be. He's going to be evaluated again. And I think that 7 to 10 day period would, in theory, allow him to be back in time to play that game. But who knows what is going to be going on there. The Sixers are, as we record on Tuesday night, are 3 games outside of the play-in. So they got some work to do. They've lost 7 straight. They've got some work to do to even get themselves into the play-in. It may be a situation. They got to be really bad to protect their pick for next year. Anything 7 or up, they lose their pick. They might just put Embiid on the shelf, put Paul George on the shelf and say, sorry, guys, like we're going to have to try again next year. So we'll call it 2.5 games that are against teams that are not particularly good. Golden State, who they opened the trip in San Francisco against Golden State, are a 500 team on their home floor. Like
they're 500 team on any floor.
On any floor. But like the Lakers are really good at home and not so good on the road. Like, so, I mean, just the distribution is not always, like that for teams that are 500. And, and then it's, who's the 5th game that I'm forgetting there? The Knicks. So that's obviously a tough game. I mean, I think, again, if you want to find these signs of a team that should be taken seriously, at the very least, you're 3-3 over these 6 games, and you're probably 4-2. Figure out a way to beat Golden State. Don't screw up the easy games. Maybe you lose to New York. Maybe you lose to the Clippers. Or maybe you go out and play a better game against the Clippers next time than you did the last time. Like, the quality of the play just needs to improve and it needs to get more consistent. JJ Redick alluded to them saying that they are growing into a more professional team that sort of embraces their roles and all that kind of stuff. But I haven't seen any of that in terms of the consistent product on the floor.
Well, this also, too, is going to get into that question of what the front office is willing to. By the way, Draymond Green could very likely end up missing that game on Saturday. He's dealing with a hip strain right now. On January 20th, I don't know how many games. Well, January 20th, it said he's going to miss at least 4 games, according to Anthony Slater from The Athletic. I can't imagine that doesn't.
That's going to put him right.
Right. So, and Jonathan Kuminga may not be available for that game. So the Lakers should be in a really good position for doing this. But, that idea of them being a serious team, beyond the position it puts themselves in terms of the playoffs and trying to get themselves at minimum out of the play-in and trying to put themselves in as good a position as possible entering that, it's also going to influence what the front office is or is not willing to do at the trade deadline. We've talked a lot about how it's very clear that this front office is at minimum undecided about how they feel about this team, if flat out convinced it's not as good as it needs to be. I mean, that's the signs they're putting out there. That's the reporting that's coming out of it. Most recently, Jovan Buha from The Athletic, friend of the show. He's got a pretty good deep dive over at The Athletic about state of the Lakers right now. One of the things that he said is, from his canvassing around the league, talking to sources, stuff like that, the consensus seems to be that the Lakers are either going to make a relatively minor move, like another DFS level type acquisition, or maybe even a rung below that, or stand pat. But the idea that they're going to take a pretty big swing, use one or both of the 2 first-round picks that they have in their complete control right now seems like a long shot. However you feel about that in terms of right decision, wrong decision, if you want to see them do anything big, it's going to require them doing well on this road trip, like trending in a direction that convinces a front office that is putting out signs of being skeptical. No, really, this is worth it.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think their default right now is not to make the move, and I'm not sure what move there is out there to be made. It should be noted, one of the criticisms against the Lakers, and we've been making it for years, is sort of a lack of creativity in how they do stuff. The Suns, who are desperate to try to make something out of the KD, Booker, Beal era, like mostly by lopping off the Beal part of it, at the very least, they made a very, I'm not sure it's going to net them what they want, but they've traded their 2031 unprotected first rounder to Utah for what will be 3 first round picks, probably a very low value, high 20s, most likely. So we'll see what that gets them. It gives them 3 picks now to put into maybe a Jimmy Butler deal or something like that.
Does Jimmy want to go to Phoenix? I hadn't noticed.
Yes. If you
he's been awfully subtle about this.
Not everyone is as well connected as I am and as experienced in reading the tea leaves. But if you kind of unpeel the onion back a little bit, you see signs that Jimmy is interested in playing in Phoenix.
Not many layers required for that peeling.
It's very subtle.
I mean, and to your point about how valuable those picks are or not, Kevin Pelton over at ESPN grading this deal gave Phoenix their half of it a C- and gave the Jazz an A-. So if nothing else, our boss is happy.
Yeah. And so I don't know if it's a good deal or bad, but people can look at that and be like, well, I'll say this, it's creative. It is a way to maybe try to give the Suns a little more draft capital to do something, potentially something stupid. But I have not seen a deal like this. It's an interesting approach.
Okay, sure.
We'll see what comes of it.
If that's the definition of creative, the results don't matter. I've just never seen that before. Then the difference
between creative and smart, and then you got to see what they do next. What happens next is a critical part of that deal. But my point more is that fans are going to look at that. Lakers fans are going to look at that and be like, "Yo, Rob, you can't do fun stuff like that."
That is true.
Why can't we have a fun trade where we get 3 first round picks for a different first round pick in a few years or something like that? And, I don't know if that's the right thing for.
I was going to say the answer might be because it's a terrible idea.
Right. It does more get to the basic problem. The Lakers in an era where you need to be creative are not known for that sort of thing. The premium on doing interesting stuff and thinking outside the box to create trades and transactions. And we've seen a couple different teams do that, like really clever stuff, how you throw in a certain player, acquiring a pick, like just doing the way
the Knicks in the Karl Anthony Towns deal, like included I think like non-guaranteed deals or veteran minimum deals, something like that, with very specific salary numbers in order to make
right. And then like they signed like a guy like who did the thing a few weeks ago where they like released a guy and then they signed him to like right back for some other thing. Like he got like, like little stuff like that to open up salary. Like the Lakers just haven't been a team known for doing that kind of stuff. And in the new CBA, if you're going to be a team that is up against the apron and hard capped and have you got to figure out these workarounds.
Right.
And we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, the counter to what I said about, the general consensus I've seen on this deal for the Suns is that unless they get Jimmy Butler or somebody who matters, this was a really bad idea. This,
and I think they've probably got something pretty well ironed out.
One would hope. I mean, one would hope, except for the fact that Matt Ishbia, as I often like to say, reminds me of the guy that goes to the steakhouse where if you eat like the 72-ounce steak in an hour, you get it for free. And Matt Ishbia eats 3 of those a day, like every day.
There's a certain ready, aim, fire, ready, fire, aim.
Right. He's got
operate.
To put it generously, he's got an aggressive approach to blank. But that being said, though, the counterpoint to the idea that this may not be a good idea would be, well, neither was trading for Russell Westbrook, but you did that anyway.
Mm-hmm. And it's hard. Like we'll pick this up tomorrow, but like the Lakers do have a difficult choice in front of them. Like the idea of maximizing LeBron and AD and the window that you're in with 2 players who are still very good, even if LeBron isn't, as we talked about for Tuesday's show, like a cheat code himself. That is what makes a team a contender just by his presence. He's still pretty good, and you have Anthony Davis, who is an All NBA performer. That's a good starting spot, and if you could figure out how to enhance that by filling in some of whether it's athleticism or shot creation for yourself or for others, or speed and athleticism. Like there's a lot of places the Lakers could improve and could make a pretty significant difference. But that's got to be in service of a team that, you think could go past the first round. Like it's not worth it to be, a first round out just to show you did something.
I was going to say the biggest decision and the most difficult decision the Lakers actually have to make is not even which decision they make. It's the decision to make a decision.
Yeah.
I think that's actually the thing that's most difficult for them, because I think if they can sell themselves on doing nothing, that's the road they want to take the most. It's pretty clear.
Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you're going to hang out with over 27,000 subscribers to the channel. Please sign up for the newsletter, lockedondaily.com. Go click on Locked On Lakers and have all this goodness delivered to you every day. We'll see you tomorrow.